would you start if you are Colin Klein or Chris Kleiman?
I think you have to start Will Howard. He's going to be back home. Let's not forget, like he's undefeated at home this year. So and he's also got the experience against this team. He beat them in the Big 12 championship last year. So he's gonna be coming in hot. He's gonna want to improve, man. Like don't get it twisted. Will Howard's not the guy that's just gonna go and sit on, rest on his laurels, man. He's gonna come in. He's gonna come into this next week, and he's gonna be working hard as always. But I like what Chris Kleiman said in his conference. We should come up with a new segment called "That's What He Said."
That's what he said.
That's what he said. But Kleiman said, Will Howard doesn't play for Will Howard University. Okay, he plays for K-State University, and Will Howard knows that. And he's a selfless player, and he just wants to be on a team that is going to win championships and is going to win football games. And he's going to do everything he can to help the team, because the whole team is really centered around that idea right there. It's just, let's put the best person we can in. It's like, it's not about the glory and the Hollywood. Like Kobe said, there's no, like Kobe Savage tells his dad, like, there's nobody that's really acting like they're Hollywood here. And that kind of makes me feel good that they're actually starting to like glue together, become a team. It's not about like, oh man, this young freshman's coming in. It's like, dude, Will Howard, like I saw a lot of times Avery coming off the field, where Will Howard's like the first over there, giving him a big hug, slapping his hand and like, yo, good job, man. Like that's the kind of like leadership that you want to see from a guy who's been through, like you said, he's been through a ton of ups and downs in his career. Absolutely. and to him, for him to be in there and just to like give his utmost support to a young guy who's got, obviously he was born with a talent that is just unbelievable. And for him to just come along and just kind of give him any sort of wisdom at all. But I still think you start Will. He's the senior. He's still the captain of this team, and then again, work Avery in there. I'm sure the coaches, they're going to see a way for us to get involved, get all the weapons involved in some way. I like we were just saying, we like the fact that there's so much depth. We don't just run, Ward. If he's like doing really well, we'll throw Giddens in there, even though Ward was doing extremely well all game. You want to take him off, give him some breathers, rest the legs a little bit, put DJ in there, let DJ take some hits in there, give the defense different looks, because you don't know. And then because one defense could be like, okay, this is how they're going to do this, how they're going to play this. We just need to stop it this way. Oh, well, here comes Avery now. Here comes Trayshawn. Now we need to expect some explosive running plays. And then they're like, okay, well, they're just going to run it then. Then what happens? Ben Sennett gets out, gets open. Avery throws to him, and we get like 35 yards. I mean, it's unbelievable. Then Will comes back in. But there at the end of the game, they just went ahead and said, look, Avery is on fire. Let's just keep him in, which I respect that. Keep instilling confidence into your future quarterback, because look, he is our future quarterback. No question about it. I still think you got to start Will. He's the senior, man. Like, the offensive line, they've been working with him for all these years. Like he's got a lot of seniors that he's known for a long time. He's just got something going on in his head, I feel like. And I think with the win like this, and then coming up and having a whole week to really prepare for TCU, I think you put him in, you see what he looks like. Hopefully we come down, we score on the first drive, and then we just get right back on track to where we were in the early part of the season. And even before then, like Big 12 championship season, I hope he gets back on that. I don't ever want to throw away somebody that has like the experience and the talent that Will has, because we've seen him win a Big 12 championship for us. And I don't think we should just like get rid of him and just like put him to the wayside and then just go with this, explosive talent that we have. I mean, it just doesn't seem right to me,
Sure. So here's what I want to get at. I agree with everything you said. Will Howard needs to continue to play. But we wanted what we got out of Avery Johnson was even more than we probably even wanted. We wanted him to be sprinkled in here and there. if the offense is stalling or on, second and third and short, maybe fourth and short, and see what he could do because we know he can run the ball, right? Well, he ended up being 8 for 9 passing with a QBR of 93.9. I'm going to zoom in on it here in a minute. Will Howard's QBR, even though he's 6 for 9 and had more yards, his QBR, which is his quarterback rating, 29.7, which was lower than Texas Tech's freshman quarterback who threw 3 interceptions. So that just shows, obviously he was not playing well. This is back-to-back games. Will Howard has not played well. Now, I kind of feel a little bit bad for Will Howard because
I feel terrible. I feel so bad for him.
He came here. He had to play almost right away because the quarterback depth was nothing. And a guy that, everyone wanted to play instead of Will Howard is now playing on Sundays, right? Like the other quarterback that he was backing up is Skylar Thompson, who's with the Miami Dolphins. He's been in the league for a couple of years. Last year he won a play-in game basically to get to the playoffs. He started a playoff game. So he had to go against a guy that's now playing on Sundays. What happens after that? K-State brings in basically the all-time yardage quarterback leader in every single thing, touchdowns, yards, whatever, from Nebraska, right? And he gets named a starter. And what happens? He stays and he ends up playing and winning a Big 12 championship game. And everyone's like, you know what? Will Howard's the dude. He's going to come back. He's going to lead us back to Arlington. And you know what happens? He plays pretty okay. But the last couple weeks, he's not played that great. And who is right behind him? Nipping at the bud is the best freshman quarterback to play at K-State since Josh Freeman. And we all know how that turned out. Josh Freeman ended up being a first-round draft pick. And, Avery Johnson looks to be as good, if not better, than Josh Freeman. I'm not sure Josh Freeman ever had a 5-touchdown game as a freshman. I'm sure he had it as, sophomore or junior, but I'm sure he didn't have it as a freshman. So Will Howard is he's kind of battled a ton of adversity. I feel a little bit bad for him. But you know what? That's football. You know what I mean? I don't know how many times K-State's had to play multiple quarterbacks in the season. Basically, everyone does. If you look at the Big 12, I think Texas and Oklahoma are basically the only teams that have only played one quarterback all season. And obviously that's turning out well for them. But at K-State, you got to have a couple guys ready. And thankfully they brought in the best freshman quarterback again since, the mid-2000s. And, Avery Johnson looked phenomenal running the ball. I did feel like at certain times they were protecting him with the play calls in the first half. I did not like all of the play calls, specifically on third down. I thought Colin Klein should open it up a little bit more. And, he did in the second half. But he also got a little bit ballsy by calling some quarterback power on 3rd and 10. And one of those, Avery Johnson ran like 25 yards untouched for a touchdown. Now, we knew the offense would look a little bit different with Avery Johnson running the ball and being a quarterback back there instead of Will Howard. I felt like later in the game, they're like, okay, let's work on some things. Let's pass the ball a little bit. And it worked. I want to see a little bit more of that this next week, and we'll do a whole another podcast on that. But hopefully, Colin Klein is not afraid to open up the playbook for Avery Johnson because he's actually an Elite 11 QB who can throw the ball. He just happens to be one of the fastest guys on the team. I was very excited to see him in the game. He played great. And you know what? You touched on it. Trayshawn Ward played phenomenal. I'm going to zoom in here. It's great. It's great for K-State and their depth that we had a guy a couple weeks ago run for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, and his other backfield mate this week ran for over 100 yards. Last week, Will Howard ran for 100 yards. His backup, who's now arguably the starter, we'll see going forward, ran for 5 touchdowns. So K-State's got plenty of depth running the ball. They ran the ball 47 times against Texas Tech, which had a top 50 rush D. And we talked about it earlier. They only gave up 14 points to Baylor on the road. And so for K-State to do what they did specifically on the ground was very, very, very impressive.